Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and yeah, we're on Fatal Journey. So I just finished a few days ago watching the Untamed episodes 48 through 50. Oh my gosh, what a roller coaster. And I said in that reaction that we were not done with our Untamed journey because there are two movies, and I had been told about these two movies from the very start, Fatal Journey, and I think it's like Forest of the Dead, or there's something to do with the undead. I don't know the title of that one specifically, but that's what I'm going to be watching next week. But I do know Fatal Journey, and I've been told that Fatal Journey is about the Nee brothers, and several people have pointed out in the comments, because one of the things that I was lamenting in the Untamed when we got the Nee flashback between Yao and Mingjue is that we didn't get to see like the book burning of all of HuaiSang's books and everything like there. And several people in the comments were like, just wait till Fatal Journey. And I was like, oh, so as far as I know, these movies are not specifically canon. It seems like the way that people have talked, the Undead movie is not canon at all. And this one has bits and pieces of canon weaved in with an uncanon story. And I'm like, okay, but it's the Nee brothers. And throughout the Untamed, we did get a lot of Mingjue, but we didn't get a lot of HuaiSang. He was just kind of lurking in the background, waiting in plain sight, right? Waiting for us to find him and for him to make his move. So now that the Untamed is over, I'm going to watch these two movies. And so I'm pretty excited to round out our Modao Zushi journey to watch these two films. And that's pretty exciting. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I don't know what to expect. I went to IQ. It's a site that houses several movies. They're Chinese and Korean dramas. And so I found IQ had the full movie. It cost me like $1 to watch it. I'm like, I'll do that. I'll gladly pay $1 to watch it and not be on a sketch site. So I'm watching it through that. And they said they had English subtitles. So good deal. But yeah, it's an hour and a half. It's basically like if we were watching 2 episodes of The Untamed. So I just looked at it that way. I was like, oh wow, it's like we're just watching another thing of The Untamed. Great on it. So I'm very curious to know what all we're going to get on this. It came out in 2020. So right after The Untamed had finished, correct? Which is interesting. I can't believe it's been that soon. It feels like The Untamed should have been longer ago, but it's not. It's only been a couple years. I'm like, huh. But yeah, look on here. Our old Ji Lee, who plays HuaiSang, I love him. Ji Lee is so good. He was great in these last few episodes. And I'm really curious to see him in this, along with Mingjue's actor and the others. There's like a cast list here. But yeah, I'm pretty excited, y'all. I got my coffee. I was like, I'm ready. It's like raining outside. It's been like, we've had like flood warnings all day. So it's been just like a torrential downpour. It's been one of those cold and gloomy late March, early April days that you're like, you just want to like get a blanket and something warm and watch something. And I'm like, what better thing than the Nee brothers and the Untamed? So we shall see. But I'm pretty excited, y'all, to see what all we get with this movie. So I hope y'all are too. But let's not waste any more time. We are going to dive right in and watch Fatal Journey from the Untamed and see what this movie is about. So we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay. All right. This was a good movie. I liked this. This was good. It suffers from this is clearly not a canon movie syndrome, which what I mean by that is towards the third act, especially the Final Fantasy boss monsters thing, I'm like, we've not really seen anything like this in Modao Zushi. It definitely has that whole, to its credit, it does play a lot with Mingjue and HuaiSang and their relationship, which is canon in the story, and the whole thing with Yao, which is canon, and I like that a lot. But there's the whole spirit, we have to go stop the saber spirit and all that. They get to the point where like, we're in a movie format, we have to have a climax, there has to be some climactic battle, and it does suffer from that. It's clearly a made-for-TV made movie that's not with the canon source material. But you know what? I'm willing to overlook that because there were some really good moments in this. HuaiSang! His actor, Ji Lee. I feel like Ji Lee's like, oh, I get my own movie? Okay. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, his actor was great in this movie. He's my favorite part. Like, he does so many, like, little nuances with his face and his eyes and how he acts. And it's in character for HuaiSang, but it's so much when you see in episode 50 of The Untamed, when you see how HuaiSang acts in that episode, and then there's this, it's like, this is the real HuaiSang. Like it's so interesting watching him be like genuine in this movie when we've seen him in The Untamed put on this facade and be the head shaker for most of the series. And then the last episode of The Untamed, you actually see him in his normal, confident self, and you're like, huh. And then here, that's how he is. And it's like, interesting. But yeah, so with the grave robbers and the saber hall, that old possession thing, all that is tying back to The Untamed and all of that. And then Mingjue to tell HuaiSang about the sword spirit. I love the scene at the beginning of this where HuaiSang is drawing the willow. He takes his time to make the willow branches and everything. And then, of course, Zonghi, R.I.P. Zonghi. Zonghui was my fave. I loved him. He was a great subordinate. He had to die, of course. I thought he was making it out of there, darn it. I thought Zonghui was going to make it out. But he shows up to get HuaiSang. And I love how confident HuaiSang is about his artwork. Like, Mingjue is confident as a warrior, and we see HuaiSang be confident about his art and the things that he likes, that he's passionate about, his painting. And he's a totally different person. But it's still HuaiSang. It's just him without the front of being the head shaker and without being the weak younger brother. You know, he just, oh my gosh, it's great. And then we have Ming. I wanted to say that there's this interesting comparison with the whole sword thing and not using your sword. I kept, in the reaction, I wanted to say something about it. But it's this comparison of Chang and Mingjue versus Wuxin and HuaiSang. Because in this, Mingjue keeps getting on to HuaiSang, being like, you need to take up the sword, you need to learn about it, because one day you're going to be the head of the Ni clan, you need to defend yourself. And it very much reminded me of Chang telling Wuxin, being like, why aren't you practicing your sword fighting? What are you not doing? Like, there's that, and it's funny because Mingjue is the older brother to HuaiSang, and Chang is the younger brother, technically, to Wuxin. He's younger than him, but they have that, like, brother looking out for each other dynamic, and in both cases. And then you have HuaiSang and Wuxin, who are both like, they don't want to use a sword. Wuxin because he can't without the golden core, and HuaiSang because he just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to suffer the same fate as his brother. Can't say I blame him. It seems like they all die a really horrible death. I don't blame HuaiSang in the slightest, right? But then Yao is there. That is the one thing about this that threw me off, is that Yao is there in his sect leader robes with the hat. And I was trying to think, I'm like, back in the flashbacks, he wasn't the sect leader yet, right? So why was he wearing... I didn't think he was a sect leader yet, so he didn't have all the hat and stuff. So I'm like, is that an inconsistency? Is that just like a flub on the... Did they just want to show Yao in those robes because that's how everybody knows him as? That's the most familiar since he just makes a cameo? I was like, that seems like an inconsistency, but maybe I'm wrong. You all will probably comment down below. I was like, I feel like that's an inconsistency. I don't know. But then the whole thing with the key deviation and the Song of Clarity gets brought up. And I wrote on here, I wrote on here at some point I wrote on here if, he was teaching him the song, I was like, if he teaches him the song and it's the way he's been doing it, but that's the wrong way, is it gonna not work? And then it comes back at the end. So I'm glad that all tied back, because when Yao's first like, oh, I'll teach you the song, I was like, is he gonna teach him the Jishin version? But then HuaiSang's gonna notice that something's up. And that smile that he gives at the end, it's like, setting Yao up to, he set this all up, which it's like, okay. Making it seem like Yao's like, oh, I taught HuaiSang the song so that when they're in the Saber Hall and he tries to use it, it's going to backfire and they'll probably kill themselves. That seems like it was the goal, but doesn't work out that way. And then that line is brought up, I really don't know. Like, HuaiSang says that, and I'm like, like, it's going to come back, it's going to be your thing, you just don't realize it yet. And then him teaching him the song on the piccolo, I'm like, oh. I was like, okay, that's kind of, it seems like it's such like a, you have Jishin with this beautiful flute, and you have Wuxin with that too, and then you have HuaiSang with the piccolo. Seems fitting for his character. I actually love Zonghui. Zonghui was great in this. He the long-suffering subordinate. He constantly worries about both of them. He was my favorite extra. I loved him a lot in this. I was like, that's really cool. I like this guy. And then he sadly has to die. But And then I did think it was interesting that even though HuaiSang says he was not studying the blades, he does take it in the forest with all of them. He does take one of Zhonghui's blades. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so Zhonghui and HuaiSang reluctant, and I like that they show in this that HuaiSang is smart. He's intelligent, and he figures everything out with how to heal the formation, to repair it. He figures all that out on his own. While meanwhile, in our Bring It On Modao Zushi crossover, you have Mingjue doing like a triangle formation, a pyramid, with his other subordinates trying to face off against this spirit and repair it. HuaiSang's already solved it. He solved the riddle. He solved the puzzle. And I like that in this movie because it shows that HuaiSang is smart and resourceful, and he can visualize things and piece it together. And that helps to explain why he was able to do all the things that he did in the Untamed and in Modao Zushi, because HuaiSang's whole act of being the dumb one is just an act. It's not real. And I was like, I loved that. I thought that was so freaking cool. But the one guy did not make it out. Yeah. And HuaiSang, talk about the sacrificing it. Yeah. So HuaiSang's like, why are we sacrificing people? That seems like it's a bad thing. And it's kind of going back to Wushin questioning HuaiSang back at the inn in the Untamed and Modao Zushi. But HuaiSang being like, sacrificing the spirit, sacrificing innocent people isn't good. And Mingjue was like, we're not sacrificing innocent people. These are evil people we're using to satisfy the spirit. And he's like, you're still sacrificing people, so it's bad either way. And I like that HuaiSang calls his brother out. He has a full-blown argument with Mingjue, calls him out, tells him he's wrong. I'm like, I'm floored by it. I'm actually really surprised. I'm like, okay. All right. I really thought that was cool, seeing HuaiSang stand up for himself and call his brother out. Now, y'all said that the books in the library, the book burning and stuff happens in this movie, but it didn't. All he did was break the brush. He broke the paintbrush, which was sad, but he didn't actually burn any of the books or anything. So I thought that was interesting, which I'm glad they didn't. That's such an angsty and sad scene. I'm glad that they didn't do that here because it's sad and I don't like it. but they didn't make him force, because in the novel they force him to like bring all the books up front, or in the Donghua at least, they force him to bring all the books and they burn them, and HuaiSang's horribly sad, and Yao comforts him. So interesting that. And then so we get Mingjue seeing his soldiers as puppets, and it's odd. It is odd throughout this movie to see HuaiSang be so serious. Him being, because usually, even in the Gusu flashbacks, like when they're at Gusu, with Wushin and Chang and all them, HuaiSang's like jokey. He's like, I got the porno magazines. Here you go, Wushin. And he's all jokey and like having a good time. And he's fun, right? But here, it's so weird because we never get to see HuaiSang be serious until the very end when that reveal happens with him and Yao. So it's interesting to see him be serious in this film and to see like that side of him. I really like that. I like HuaiSang and Mingjue in this film and their dynamic, and I liked exploring that relationship more. It very much does what the Untamed does. It takes the source material and it just peels it apart, and I really like that about it. But, okay. The bats. The bats on the bridge. I could understand they're flesh-eating bats. I get they're flesh-eating bats. They have resentful energy. Don't want them messing with us. I'm totally on board with that. That makes sense. The aerial acrobatics, slinging a sword. It's like slinging a sword at straw. Like you're not even hitting all of them. But I get it. Legend of Zelda. I get it. You play it. You hit the bats. Got it. But the bats breaking the bridge. It's like, what are these bats eating? I guess if they're supernatural bats, they are naturally strong. Someone in the comments is going to be like, well, they're this supernatural. I'm like, I know. Okay. It was very humorous because I was like, I'll tolerate them swatting a sword at a bat, but the bats all coming together and breaking the bridge, it was great. And the thing that is the detriment to this movie is that we know that these characters, we know that Mingjue and HuaiSang at least are not going to die here because they have a story later on. That's the biggest downfall with movies like this, is if you know they're going to make it out fine, it's like, it takes some of the stakes away and it takes some of the stress, but it's how are they going to get out? And there is a claustrophobic quality to this movie. When you're down in the Saber Hall, there is this claustrophobia, like you just feel like you're caged in. And to the movie's credit, it does a nice job of making you feel uneasy. Like, there are several parts I was like, oh, okay. But then I was like, wait a minute, they're going to be fine. And you kind of get psyched out a few times, which I like. Again, the bats on the bridge, the mechanics of Basha, I'm like, how we just palm strike him up, and like Mingjue's cheerleading strength, like he's a guy at that core and he just like tosses HuaiSang up the pyramid. You know, I just really want a Modao Zushi cheerleading Bring It On crossover now. That's basically what this movie's done for me. But I like the idea that we get of the relationship of Mingjue and HuaiSang being developed, and their kid versions are perfectly cast. I don't know why they were getting flogged. I guess they just got in trouble because it showed them like playing with each other with the swords. So maybe they weren't supposed to do that, and they got flogged for that reason. But I love Mingjue always being like, I'm going to be here for you as your big brother, and I'll always protect you. And then we know from his death that didn't happen, and HuaiSang couldn't protect him because Yao was holding him back. And it's like, whew. And it makes that relationship so much richer after this movie, and it gives you such a better appreciation of it, so that when you know why HuaiSang went to the lengths that he did to get revenge on Yao, because he's like, this is the only person in the world I truly care about, and you took him from me. And it's like, whoa, and we'll get to that. But HuaiSang being emotional, like, I love that it's the most emotional we've ever seen him in this series, in this movie. It's like, Zhili was like, this is my time to shine, and I'm like, and you do, he steals the show. Like, the whole movie, I was like, HuaiSang, this is your movie. I absolutely love it. He looks great. I put down here, like, he had the pretty dirt, where it's like just the little tiny scribbles of dirt. I was like, it's the pretty dirt on him. I was like, all right. It was very, like, he just looks great in this. He looks great. And so then, yeah, there's the whole thing with getting lost in the catacombs. It reminded me a lot of Labyrinth, where they keep, like, you just keep going back around. I'm glad he was smart enough to put the little, the tassel to try to get him back. And then I don't understand quite what the big corpse-looking thing, it looked like the mummy, the corpse-looking thing that got him pinned against the wall was, unless it was a spirit, a saber spirit, and Mingjue just rescued him from it. That's the only thing I could think of. But I liked their little reunion. And I liked this movie kind of humanizes Mingjue just a little bit more. Him saying, I know what I'm doing isn't right. And by my standards, I should be ashamed of myself. But he's like, I thought taking on this that I could make a difference. And I'm just following in the footsteps of those before me. That's all that's ended up happening. And he's like, and I know that this is not a long-term solution, what we're doing. He's like, but I don't know any other way, and I want to protect you. And so I like that Mingjue has this moment where he's like, I know what I'm doing is problematic, but I don't know what else to do. And HuaiSang's like, well, we'll figure it out. We need to suppress the sword spirit, right? We need to suppress it. And I like that idea of, yeah, Mingjue, I tried to change, but I ended up the same. And so I have put on here that Ni, like, the burden, yeah, so he worried, he's like, I didn't want you to be put with this burden. And he's like, but I wanted you to learn swordsmanship because eventually you're going to have to take my place. And that's really sad because Mingjue's saying, I'm going to die soon and you're going to have to take over. And are you going to be prepared? He's like, I wanted you to be prepared for this. And HuaiSang's like, huh. And it's really, really, really sad. And then he warns HuaiSang that if he doesn't have a sword, it's going to be hard for him to defend himself. The joke, though, is on Mingjue, because HuaiSang, even without using a sword, ends up being one of the most powerful characters in the show by just his intellect, his sharp tongue, and his acting skills. Like, he manages to outlast a lot of people in this series, and he didn't even use a sword to do it. He just had his fan. It's like, So, but yeah, so them both going together, the vulnerability. I like HuaiSang and Mingjue talking about their vulnerability. And Yao, it hits home how HuaiSang would instantly want to get revenge over Yao. Like, seeing these moments with Mingjue and him and seeing their vulnerability put out in the open and seeing how much Mingjue loves HuaiSang and how much HuaiSang loves his brother, it makes, when he finds out, I'm sure that Yao is behind it, it makes him just that more hyper-focused on that revenge. And we see early on in the movie does a good job of showing us just how resourceful HuaiSang is, so it makes sense that he was able to do the things that he did. But yeah, Zhonghui, Zhonghui, they're all gone. Like, he just goes there. He talks about, Zhonghui talks about being like a brother to HuaiSang and Mingjue. And that should have been the death flag. It should have been the nail in the coffin. But I was like, nah, he'll get out. Even when he got possessed, I'm like, oh, Mingjue's going to save him. He'll get out. It'll be fine. Yeah. And they had decided they have to take down the sword spirit. And HuaiSang gets knocked out, you know, like you do. And then there was that whole thing with the rope chain. And I commented on it in the reaction, but I feel like Modao Zushi is the only Chinese series I've ever watched. The only other donghua I've watched other than Modao Zushi is Link Click. That's been it. And Link Click is a modern series, so it does not have really any like mythological, cultural things in it in Link Click. It's very straightforward modern times. But this is the first like supernatural, historical, mythological show that I've watched from China. And so I, as a Western viewer, as a Western audience member, I don't know the tropes. I don't know the cultural significance of lots of things. So when they pull out these magical, mystical chains and things like that, I feel in my head as a viewer like, okay, the audience is probably knowing where this is coming from and probably knows that this is something that happens all the time. But me as a Western audience member, I'm like, why'd they know the chains were going to work? Where'd they get those chains from? What is this? And so it's just interesting, but it's a nice commentary of me as an audience member that I'm not quite privy to everything that I feel like an audience member from China would feel like watching this. And so then, yeah, and then show the sword spirits. It's like Final Fantasy boss battle. Mingjue with his hair down. I just love the wig. The wig goes down. It's like, Mingjue is like the best down hair. Like after a battle, like there's no helmet hair. There's nothing. He's got perfect tresses. It's amazing. And so then, yeah, Mingjue, HuaiSang tries to use the Song of Clarity on Mingjue when he sees he's getting out of control, and it doesn't work. It's a great callback. Like it's it all comes full circle. It's great. And yeah, he tries to use the Song of Clarity, and it just doesn't work. And he ends up killing Zhonghui. He kills all the others. It's so sad. He nearly kills HuaiSang. He nearly kills him. Like sword right here, and then he manages to stop because he sees the others as puppets, but he sees HuaiSang as his brother. And that's the only thing. That bond is just strong enough that he doesn't end up hurting him. And it's really sad because you think as an audience member, you're like, man, back when that key deviation does take control of him and he's trying to point the sword towards Yao and everything, he's trying to protect HuaiSang. And so it's a really cool callback that during that key deviation when Mingjue was dying, he was pointing the sword at Yao being like, stay away from him, stay away from my brother, you know, trying to protect HuaiSang. It's like it all ties back. And then Mingjue snaps out of it, and I love that he sees all of his subordinates dead, and HuaiSang, he doesn't lie. He says they were killed by the sword spirit. It's like... And then Mingjue's ugly crier. It's like HuaiSang has beautiful tears, like handsome tears. Mingjue is an ugly crier, which fits his character. If Mingjue had been a pretty crier, I would have been like, that's not in character. Mingjue as ugly crier is very in character. I'm like, okay. Makes sense. But yeah, and then I really like how we book in this movie that we end on Mingjue's death, that we cut back beyond the key deviation, because they hint at it at this movie. They hint that it's going to happen, right? And we as the audience who've watched The Untamed, we know it happens, but here in the movie, Mingjue tells HuaiSang, he's like, I am eventually going to die. It's inevitable. And then in here we see it happening. But I love that we get the actual funeral and we see HuaiSang burning the joss paper and them doing like all the rituals and everything, and seeing HuaiSang sad and so devastated by his brother's death. It reminded me a lot of Yanli at Zixuan's death, but seeing him like in the white with the joss paper. And then they do a visualization to show him like he sees the book and everything, and like the page flips over to the song. And they show us, the audience, the visualization, but we realize after the fact that it was just HuaiSang in his mind palace figuring it out and figuring out, wait a minute, if this didn't work back then, has it been hurting my brother for all this time? And I don't know. I've not read the novel chapters yet. I'm going to this weekend. I'm decided to watch this movie before reading the novel chapters. So I don't know the HuaiSang reveal yet in the novel. I don't want to be spoiled either, but I don't know the HuaiSang reveal in the novel to know if he explains in the novel how he figured it out. Because in the Untamed, you don't know. HuaiSang is just revealed to have known and wanted revenge on Yao, but we never in the Untamed figure out exactly when and how HuaiSang figured out. And the Donghua we don't know either. So I'm curious in the novel if we're going to get expansion on that. That will be interesting to see if that actually happens. But yeah, Yao showing up at the end and just, offering his condolences. And that shot of him bowing and looking under his hands at him, like, just with such contempt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this was a good movie. I liked this. There were parts of it that I was like, okay, movie, I see what you're doing. Like the bats. But overall, I really love I love Zhili in this. I loved him as HuaiSang. Mingjue's actor was great, but HuaiSang stole the show for me. Like, this was his movie, and I was like, okay, I'm here for it. So I really liked that. That was a lot of fun. So I do have one more movie to watch. I have one more movie. I think it has Ning and I think it involves Ning and Sisui. I think that's the next movie, which is funny. We're having all these like brotherly like relationships explored in these films. So I've got that one. And then over on Patreon, I am currently asking people for suggestions about the character songs as well as the behind the scenes thing. So if you're a patron, you can go on over. There's a post on there about that because I'm going to do a character song reaction and then some behind the scenes stuff to round us out. And we'll have the Wangshin special. So we still have plenty of Modao Zushi left to go. Plenty left to go. But I am excited. So yeah, we still got the second movie, the character song reactions, the Wangshin special edition clips, and we have behind the scenes things to round us out with Modao Zushi and the Untamed. So lots more to come. I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week with the second movie of the Untamed for Modao Zushi.